This is the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast, episode 358.
I program my home computer.
We have a server crash, 404 error, page not found, links aren't working, system is crashing, system is crashing, system is crashing.
Your old HTML website, barely alive. We have the technology. We have WordPress. A new website, better than it was before. Better, stronger, faster. We have the technology.
Why, hello everyone. This is Adam Silver, the host of the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, first and foremost, normally upcoming events, but first I want to say Happy New Year. This is the first episode of 2021. So excited that 2020 is behind us, and may we all have a fantastic, productive, enjoyable, healthy new year to you and your families out there. All right, moving on. Upcoming events. WordFest is coming up. It's at the end of the month. There's nothing else on the calendar at the moment. So WordFest is the festival of WordPress, as it is written. January 22nd. It is free. Check it out. Some great speakers are going to be there. They're all amazing speakers, I'm sure. So check that out. January 22nd, 2021. It's pretty cool. 24 hours, 4 regions, 2,000 attendees so far is what the website is saying. So pretty cool. All right, moving on. Segment 1. In the news, there have been a lot of year-end recaps. And I mean, I did mine kind of thing, was a couple weeks back, episode 356. I did my 2021 goals. I didn't really do a recap. Should have, could have, didn't. I changed it up last year, I guess. Anyway, so the two I want to mention are, one of us by Francesca Marano, and she was on Kitchen Sink WP Podcast episode 310. You can go listen to that episode if you want to hear what she had to say. She used to work at SiteGround, and now she is at Yoast. That's right. She's at Yoast. She made the move late last year, I do believe. So she wrote the Future of WordPress 2020 edition. Really nice write-up there. And the other one I wanted to call out that you might want to check a look at is GitHub. They published their annual Octoverse report for 2020. Really in-depth, colorful, nice graphics as well, mentioning that they have access. I know GitHub is a code hosting platform. They serve about 56 million developers right now, 60 million new repos every year. So they have a good insight to what's going on in the Octoverse. It's pretty darn cool. So check that out as well. Also in the news, finally, a bit of personal news. Some changes. I plan on having a big monumental year. Like, I didn't do a recap, so I kind of want to share right now what I'm doing this year. My goal this year is to take ideas to fruition, just to publish it all, get it all out there. It's my year of RGTD, meaning really get things done. Okay. And with that said, you're going to hear me talk about them here on the podcast, as most of them have some sort of WordPress component to them, using WordPress, the business of WordPress, membership sites, etc. And if you want to participate in some, you can, because there will be ways to participate in them as well. You'll see that in the weeks to come. I do want to mention 2 other projects that are current, and a reminder and a teaser on this topic. So first of all, the 2 projects that are current are Get Options Podcast, because we're always open for questions on that show. That I say we, it's Kyle Maurer and myself, and when we have guest hosts as well. So you can go over to getoptionspodcast.com. It's a great show. Check that out. I'm still planning on launching 1 Minute Motivation over at oneminmotivation.com/pre-launch. You can support this by submitting 1 minute of what motivates you to do what you do every day. I would love to have your voice on that show. Of course, I've mentioned a couple weeks ago, Gidiot, GITIDIOT.com. It's still coming. And I was actually thinking about this recently. I think I'm going to use my buddy Dustin's plugin for part of this project. So I know how to do pull requests. I know that's part of Git. It's probably news to him right now as I say this. I didn't run it by him. He wrote a plugin years ago. Hasn't been updated in a while. It didn't work for my theme back in the day. Anyway, I think I'm going to use his plugin as part of my project. So that's kind of cool. That's over at Gidiot.com. And as far as the teaser goes, well, I'm getting ready to relaunch my personal site over at adamsilver.com, putting some final touches on it, some offers on there, and it's going to be kind of cool. I've had some requests, so it's been a while coming, so that's going to happen this month. So pretty cool. Maybe next week. I might mention it again, or in 2 weeks. We'll see. Anyway, so those are the things that are coming up on the personal side of things. And I'd love to share your news if you have some news to share also, jobs and or whatnot. Okay, that is it for the news. Moving on, segment 2, meat potatoes. But first, I want to thank our sponsor. This week's sponsor is WP Complete. Now, WP Complete is a WordPress course completion plugin that helps your students become more successful with online courses by helping them track their progress. By giving students a way to track their progress through online courses, they're more likely to finish. That means happier and more accomplished students. Out of the box, WP Complete works with most WordPress course and memberships plugins, requires zero programming, and can be connected to your mailing list. You can also use WP Complete with any WordPress theme or page or post type. It's now part of the iThemes family suite of products, so you can feel confident at knowing that its code base and support is rock solid. So head over to wpcomplete.co, use the code SYNCWP to save 25% off your purchase, and thanks for sponsoring this week's episode. All right, moving on, segment 2, meat potatoes. So new year, as I said earlier, so is it time to hire someone for your company or to be hired? Maybe you're looking for something. So I've talked about being hired or hiring in the past episodes. Back on episode, 73 weeks ago, episode 285, I talked about hiring a sales rep. Back on episode 160, doing the sales hustle. And then also episode 117, red flags when outsourcing, all kind of related here. And there were a few more episodes that followed up that red flags. I think I did a part 2, maybe a part 3 as well. But as this episode is dropping the first week of the new year, I thought it'd be a great time to revisit it. And perhaps it's time to grow your company, or perhaps you are looking for work. And I've experienced hiring someone recently over at backupspeaker.com. It got me thinking about that whole process, what I went through to review things and hire someone. So here are a bunch of things to consider and plan and figure out as you plan to do this yourself, either both sides of the coin, either hiring or being hired. Starting with, let's say, looking for work and applying for work. And then we'll switch over to if you're the person hiring for the role. Okay, so reviewing resumes, the do's and don'ts, and cover letters. Okay, don'ts. First of all, don'ts. Don't Google content, copy and paste it, especially for a mission statement. It is still plagiarism, and it shows a lack of trying. Come on, okay? Simple as that. I found this happens apparently a lot. People just take other people's or just standard stock content, and they put it as their own, mission statements. I didn't think that was all that great. And then here's 9 more that I want to share with you in no specific order, but spelling mistakes and grammatical errors, not ideal. Inaccuracies about your qualifications or experience, not a good thing here either. Unnecessary personal information. I don't really need to know where you live necessarily, especially these days in the fields that we're in. If we're online, remote, doesn't really matter where you live. It's a matter, can you do the job and cover the time zone I might need. Okay, I don't need to know your age. Okay, so on a cover letter resume, don't include your age. No need for that. The wrong company name, or in this case, the wrong spelling of the company name, or even the wrong spelling or the person of the contact, meaning, it's not a good thing. I know that for a fact that Automatic has this happen. They say even in their on their website, make sure you spell Automatic correctly. Make sure you spell WordPress correctly. So do that as well. Okay, make sure you don't mess that up. Anything that's not true, don't lie in your resume. It's just not worth it. It's not worth trying to remember it. Don't do it. Okay. Paragraphs that are too long, short, sweet, simple. Keep it simple, is the KISS, right? So do that. And the last 2 here are your salary requirements or expectations. I don't think the resume is a place to put that at this point if you're looking for work, personally. And never, ever, ever, ever put any negative comments about your current or past employer. That's between you and them, and really just between you. And I don't think it's a good thing to do, professionally speaking. So the do's on your resume: contact information. I've gotten a handful of resumes with no way to reach back out to you. Email and telephone number, or there's a typo in your email, or your telephone number doesn't work, or you have a new number. Yeah, make sure that's current and up to date. You also want to include an opening statement, a summary, objective. What is it you're trying to do? What are you trying to offer? Your work history, I prefer newest on the top, like what's most current, moving your way down to the oldest. And as far as count numbers of pages, 1 page is fine, 2 is okay. 3 gets a little long. Don't go past 3, but 1 to 2 pages works just fine. Your education, if applicable, or coding boot camps, where you've studied in the field you're applying for. You can list your soft skills and technical skills. You can add certifications and professional memberships. Achievements and awards can also be in that. And then any additional sections, these are, you can do this. You don't have to, by the way. Community involvement, volunteering, etc. Okay. So those are the things for the do's and don'ts for cover letters and resumes. Okay. Now, if you're hiring, here's a kicker. So here's some tips about reading a resume. Set aside time to do the following in a non-rushed format. Review the cover letter. Really read the cover letter. Okay. Don't just skim it completely over. Perform a resume review and scan. Look at the resume, review it, scan it. Dive deep into their skills and qualifications. If the wording is vague, that could be a problem. Really read to see what they wrote. How was it written? Are the tenses the same? First person, third person, etc. Is there a history of the job hopping? Is it evident? Like in the history of the current jobs, past jobs, If it's evident there's a lot of job hopping, it could be a red flag, but also makes sense if the person has been a contractor for the past 3 to 5 years. So I don't think that's so much a negative anymore, just something to keep in mind and be considered of. Too much personal information. If there's too much information like their age, their salary requirements, where they live, again, red flag. It can just become awkward, I guess. And then determine whether the applicant qualifies for the next phase. And after you've done all that, then what is that next phase? Back in pre-COVID, it was in person and, an interview. Now it's going to be virtual. So then if they qualify, set them up for a Zoom call or Skype or however you want to deal with that. I also recommend personally that you might consider having more than one person on that call, like you and possibly, if you have a big enough company, someone in HR. Some companies actually don't do video at all. They just do audio because there's less stress and there's less expectation of looking a certain way. Not a bad idea. Okay. So there you go. There are a handful of, how many was that actually? I think in the hiring side of things, let me double check here. That was 9 things to think about, as well as 8 for the resumes and about 10 over there for the don'ts on the cover letter resume. Just take the time to prep on both sides. If you're hiring, take the time to review and just don't rush through it. If you're applying, same thing. Take the time, get things right, spell things right, know what you're doing. Don't lie in your resume. Short version on that. Okay. So lastly, if you're in an underrepresented group and you feel you don't qualify for the role based on description, like you're not 100%, realize that no one is 100% qualified for anything. It's very rare. It can happen, sure, but I don't think anyone's 100% qualified. But with that in mind, typically men, those who identify as male, in general will apply for way more than women. In general, it's unfortunate because, that's just stats show this. And white men will apply for even more than non-white. So don't let that stop you. My advice is, if you're 70% qualified or more, apply. I always have. I'm always like 70% or more. I'm not going to be 100% for anybody. If I'm at 70%, I apply back when I was looking for work, and I can learn the rest. And hopefully someone gives you a chance and gives you a break. So there you go. All right. That's it for that. Moving on, segment 3, tip and tool of the week. This week's tip, it's a website. I don't think I've mentioned it in the past. If I have, I apologize, but it's over at jsbin.com. J as like JavaScript bin. It's pretty cool. You can actually just type in code. There's a couple different windows for HTML, CSS, JavaScript console, and it gives you output on the left and right side. Kind of neat. It's just a place where you can practice writing some code and check things out, see if they work. So jsbin.com. There's a free level and a paid level. You can upgrade to Pro. What's Pro cost? Pro costs, I don't know. It doesn't say here. Payment. It's £100 a year. I think that's, if I'm not mistaken. So if you wanted to go Pro, and I guess the Pro lets you connect to, you can have private bins, email support, some other things. I guess it connects to GitHub as well. So kind of neat. Okay, there you go. That is it. jsbin.com. Let me wrap it up here. If you have any questions, go ahead and send it in via email, adam@KitchensinkWP.com, or you can use the speak pipe function on the website. If you want to support the show, become a Patreon. Link on the website. Want to sponsor the show? There's also a form on the website. Thanks so much for listening. See you next week. Now go out and do some awesome things with WordPress. All right? Happy New Year. Bye-bye.